segments as well. Last month, the House of Representatives approved an extension of the nation's debt limit through early December after the Senate passed the stopgap measure in a bid to avoid a catastrophic default and economic disaster. Well, the new December 3rd deadline is just 3 weeks away now. Has anything changed? What might we expect in the coming 3 weeks? Joining me now to talk about this and more is Representative Ralph Norman. He's a member of the Committee on Homeland Security and the Committee on Oversight and Reform. He represents the 5th Congressional District of South Carolina. Representative Norman, welcome back to the program.
Glad to be with you, Joseph.
So a few weeks ago, we kicked the can down the road on the debt ceiling, on the potential of default. What are you expecting from the next 3 weeks?
Joseph, sadly, what I'm expecting is probably go right up to the 3rd and either do a CR, a continuing resolution, or some amount that they want to raise the debt limit to get us by another year. No family, no business, no individual would run their individual lives like this. You're talking about a country that's over 29 trillion and counting in debt, and to continue to not to kick the can down the road. We're at the end of the runway, and I think, but evidently there's not enough will among those elected, and we got to change that. That's our challenge. But I don't expect anything. I expect that they'll do another CR and then move forward.
I do want to keep talking about the can, but I think the runway and the amount of runway we have is also important, because the can that we're talking about right now, the current debt ceiling challenge, is complicated on the Hill because of the debate over the Build Back Better plan. And that, of course, is President Biden's priority. How do these negotiations affect each other? Is there a possibility that the prioritization of the Build Back Better plan makes it so they don't get a budget issue resolved?
Time will tell. The name of it, Build Back Better, is Bankrupt America Quicker is the name of it. It's frivolous spending. Whenever we're in the debt that we're in, the 29 trillion and counting, you have every fund about bankrupt, from Social Security to Highway Trust Fund and others. This so-called Build Back Better is more like $5 to $6 trillion that we don't have. And it'll just add to the debt. And when you have 10 trillion in this bill for environmental equity, 4 trillion for tree equity, they took off the SALT deduction, state and local tax. So the millionaires and billionaires that they say they can't stand, they're giving them more breaks. So I hope Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema stick. I was disappointed in the Republicans last Friday to vote on this so-called infrastructure bill that is adding to our debt. But we'll live to fight another day, and hopefully the so-called Build Back Better will be defeated and it's stalled in the Senate.
And tell us that, in addition, the debt limit issue that will have to go through both the House and the Senate, how many votes does that require in the Senate? Because we know Biden's budget plan is being held up by the possibility of needing 60 votes in the Senate. But to raise the debt ceiling, how many votes do you need?
Well, to raise the debt ceiling, it's a simple majority. Now, under the reconciliation, it takes 60 votes in the Senate. In the House, it's still a majority, 50% plus one. But I just hope we can delay the future spending. We have got to get back to running the country like most families run their household, and we got to cut things. You can't continue to spend. So we'll see, and hopefully we'll take heed with what the elections in Virginia were. I think is repudiation of what this administration is doing. So we'll see.
Now, the American public is not a stranger to these debt limit debates. They seem like an almost annual event. I know they're not actually an annual event, but they kind of feel like it. What are the consequences of doing this year over year over year, where we just continue to borrow more money to just pay for operations?
Well, the problem it presents is the military and every government contract or lease has to be redone, and that's a time-consuming effort, and you never know when the final date is. We ought to have a 2-year budget minimum, And we ought to address what we're doing, which is spending more than we're taking in. There hadn't been any negotiations. The Republicans have not had any input in this. This is totally Democrat control. And Republicans are going to have to find the wherewithal to hopefully stop it and stop the spending that is taking place. But we got to do it on a state by state, congressman by congressman, and senator by senator.
Switching gears on you quickly in our last remaining couple of minutes, you and other members of the Oversight Committee called on Attorney General Merrick Garland to provide answers about his memo targeting parents. What are your thoughts on the internal documents released recently that confirm that the National School Board Association did, in fact, deliberate and coordinate with the White House before formally sending the letter to the Biden administration requesting the investigation of parents?
No, Joseph, this is a weaponizing of the law in this country, of the judicial system. And it's just a fear tactic. I mean, imagine going at a school board meeting with the parent that got all the publicity. His daughter was raped by a man pretending to be a woman going in the bathroom. And to weaponize this and to take parents to jail because they're questioning what the school district's teaching is ludicrous, but that's why we got to fight back. I mean, this administration in 9 months has done more damage to try to silence Americans, and it's not working. That's the good news, and I don't think it's going to work.
I think the opposite has happened, in fact, where a lot of parents are being woken up. From your seat there in Congress, what do you think Congress should be doing to empower parents in the education of their children?
You know, all politics is local. What we've got to do is empower parents and encourage parents to attend the local school board meetings, get groups together and ask, where's the COVID money? Ask, is our taxes going to be raised this year? Ask if critical race theory is being taught. Get in the classrooms, take control of what your children are being taught. It's the parents' responsibility, not the education association. It's parents. And they ought to dictate and have input on what's being taught. And I can tell you, on majority of schools all around the country, from what I hear, they're not being taught what parents think they are. They're not being taught patriotism, our Constitution, and other things. That it's been replaced, and it's been a desire that this administration has had to control it. And we got to
Congressman
stop it.
Norman, I've got to cut you off. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Really appreciate your leadership on these issues and for being with us today. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.